Hey guys, welcome back to the Disciplined HQ podcast. I've got Jason Sumner here. Jason is a guy that I've been following for quite a while, basically since I started the Disciplined Apparel line. And if anyone who is following me has also followed Jason, you've definitely seen his upbeat personality and the transformation that he has made. And so he was one of the first people I reached out to say, let's hear your story, man. So, Jason, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad to hear your story. We talked a little bit before the podcast about, what all you've been through, and I think the story that you have is probably similar to what other people have experienced as well. So, where do we want to start? I know we talked about like your faith journey and your fitness journey. So, is there a good starting point? Do you want to start with faith or fitness?
We can start with faith. I think that kind of got me started on fitness, to be honest. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, like I said before the podcast, there was a time where I was battling quite a bit of depression, some insecurities, and um, crazy thing. A friend of mine had sent me a podcast to listen to. Well, it was a video, kind of like a YouTube video. And he's like, "Hey, I know you're going through a lot. I just want you to watch this." And it was faith based, and it was crazy because like there was a feeling, not a feeling. I don't believe in coincidence anymore, but it was literally like Jesus was there. It was like speaking to me. He's like, "Hey, you're going to church tomorrow," and I'm like, "What? I haven't been to church in years." And he's like, "No, you need to go to church." And I'm like, "Okay, like whatever, okay." And it was just such a hard feeling that I could not go. So I got up the next
Ah,
morning, I went to church, and it was literally the sermon that I needed to hear. I walked
mm,
in and sat down and going through depression, um, a lot of deep rooted stuff. And the pastor just started out. He's like, "I got a great message for you. I just want you to know that Jesus Christ loves you and he wanted you to be here." And I was like, "Whoa, okay." we're getting we're getting somewhere here, because the night before I had the feeling that I had to go, and it was just a perfect message about Jesus's
mm,
love. And I went to the pastor after the sermon, and I just said, "Hey, I just want you to know I think that was meant for me. That was the perfect message." And he's like, "Would you think I was crazy if it was meant for you?" And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And he's like, "I wrote this sermon for another person that's coming to faith, and they called me and said they weren't going to be there. I crumbled it up and went to throw it away, and Jesus spoke to me and said, 'No, somebody's coming tomorrow, and they need to hear this message.'" And I was
no
like, "You
way.
got to be kidding me! You got to be kidding me!" And it was just like it just hit so hard. And what's crazy is at the time. I was actually playing semi-pro football. Busy schedule. We were practicing all the time. Season was getting ready to start, and I didn't really dive further into faith at that moment. I was like, "Oh," initially I was like, "Oh, that was kind of a coincidence." I didn't buy into it, but like as the story progressed, I was like, "Oh, that was all supposed to happen, obviously." But that's where
That's
it really,
crazy.
that's yeah, that's where it all really started, and then. Um, Through that, he's been working on me hard. I kind of, I didn't go back in the faith. I ended up completely tearing my knee that same year. And I always tease. I was like, I didn't, I didn't work on my faith right away. I think God tried to slow me down and put me through a torn knee so that I would pay attention to Him and not the football. And he really started working on me through that. And that, and then going forward, like I said, I couldn't do anything for about a year and a half. I couldn't. I was in a wheelchair for a long time. It was a really bad tear.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, it was pretty much my ACL, PCL, meniscus, cracked knee. It was really bad. It happened in practice, which was the hardest part, because like it was the practice before our season opener, and I was just so ready to play, so hyped up, and then that happened. And to be
Mm.
honest, initially I was like, "Oh, gee, here we go, God. You bring me into your faith, and then you allow this to happen." So it was kind of a pity party.
Yeah.
But
How
like I
was
said,
that? Like, did you have those feelings? Like, did you have like a feeling of like God did this to me, or like was that a little tough
initially
to go through?
initially I did, but I think, like I said, I think it was just a little bit of a pity party.
Mm,
And then, as I got thinking about it more and stuff, I needed it because football was, other than my kids, football was my life, and um, I wasn't paying attention to him, and I was so caught up in the moment, so playing football, so exciting, and I wasn't working on my faith, and I think at that point I was getting older for football, so it was starting to hurt a lot more, and
mm,
honestly, I think it was the perfect time for that to happen because it was tough in the meantime, but it made me so much stronger mentally. It grew my faith, and then it got me into fitness even more
yeah.
through all that. So, yeah,
Dang, so how'd you get into like semi-pro football? Were you playing in college or did you just try out for a team and you made it?
yeah. I played for a while. I played tight end, and I had the opportunity. I kind of, like I said, I had a lot of insecurities growing up, and kind of brushed off college. I went to college, didn't complete it, unfortunately, in the beginning. And so I didn't get a whole lot of, football time and all that good stuff. Got out of college, or I decided to leave college at that point. And I had heard about a team in the city about an hour and a half away, and went up for an opportunity, tried out, and made the team. So that's, yeah,
Golly.
yeah.
So have you been like training for that or were you just like a natural athlete?
I've always been into sports, always been an athlete. I wasn't sure that I could make it, but I just gave it my best shot, and they picked me. So
That's awesome. So what is that tryout like? Like, is it you have to go through the some sort of NFL combine kind of thing, or what is
kind
that?
of, yeah. It was they did a speed check, so I had to run a 40, and then I had to catch a lot of. I played tight end, so they threw me a whole lot of balls. I had to run all the routes. I had to learn the playbook as quick as I could, and then we kind of ran through some scrimmages with the whole team, and um, somehow they somehow they liked what they saw, so I was happy. So
Man, well, I'm sure they did. So how long were you in that and what was it like?
I did that for years. It was a lot of fun. I think that was kind of my escape. Like I said, I had a lot of depression and stuff, and that kind of got, like, when you're, I'm sure a lot of the fitness people understand, like when you're in the zone or you're doing what you really enjoy, it's
Hmm.
like your peace, man. So playing football, and now lifting weights, even, it's like, man, when I'm in the gym or when I was playing football, um, nothing else really mattered. It was like it's
Hmm.
just me and the weights, or me and the football, me and the team, and you could just really dive in and do well, and you don't have to worry about everything else going on at that point. So
Yeah. That is a great part about the gym, especially like coming from, I guess, myself, who was like 120 something pounds whenever I graduated high school, and then started or, did not have a whole lot of confidence, was more of a nerdy kid, and then started lifting because my wife or girlfriend then, wife now, was a varsity soccer captain here in
oh
Louisiana, and she was like one of the top teams, and she clearly could have smashed me if she wanted to. It's like, and
yeah.
her whole family was the exact same way. Like they were all just like stud athletes. Her dad was an amazing triathlete. Her brother, kind of the same thing, more of a frat guy, and like started lifting then. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to survive in this family, I need to do something. But the gym was like definitely one of those places where you could like shut it off and like I don't know if it drove you the way that it drove me, but like being that I was almost like fighting against that skinny kid every time that
Oh
I was in
yeah,
the gym.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yes.
And it was, I don't know, it was, and even still, like I probably have just now gotten over that being now 34 years old. Like finally feeling like I've mastered my high school self.
Yeah.
And it's
No, I
just,
feel that. I just turned 40 this year, and I keep thinking the same. Like, I am very grateful that I finally finally got where I wanted to be or whatever. So
Yeah, I love it. So, okay, so you're new to the faith-ish and just got injured playing semi-pro,
yeah.
and so what happens now?
Um, well, like I said, I was kind of it was kind of crazy because like the team nurse thought I hyperextended it. So I had to go through all, then I went to the local hospital and they thought I just sprained it. And then finally, like a week later, my knee was just giant. It was like so swollen. They finally had a specialist look at it. He did an MRI and he's like, this is bad. And he sent me to a specialist in Kansas City and he did the surgery. And so it was about, I had to be in a wheelchair for 4 months. I couldn't put any weight on it.
Mm,
Before and after the surgery. And then they had me wait, I think it was 8 or 9 months before I lifted because they didn't want any strain or anything on it. Um, so, yeah, it was about a year and a half of just hanging out. I mean, I couldn't really do
yeah.
much. It was wheelchairing around. And that, and I had a lot of friends check up on me, thankfully. And that's where I really kind
Mm,
of um, really worked on my faith a lot. I I realized that the pity party had been over, and I realized, God's not going to do this to punish anybody. He doesn't. He loves us. Like this isn't God's work.
mm,
I get out of the pity party, and
yeah.
I just started drawing close with Him. Started going to church again full time, and um, then once I was able to walk, I actually, started serving at church, and and then it's really it kind of I got back into fitness, and it really my faith even has grown way more through the faith and through the process, and just like I said, God's been talking to me a lot lately about doing some different doing like podcasts and
Yeah.
some different content on just strong divine masculinity, positive masculinity, and things like that. And it's kind of
Hmm.
terrifying. I'm pretty nervous, but he's really talking to me. And I haven't really spoke. I've told a few people like that because I thought, man, people, if you a lot of times nowadays, if you actually tell people, oh, God's talking to me, they look at you like, what? Come on,
Yeah. Are
just
you
because
sure?
just because well, unfortunately, the faith, it's up and down, hit or miss a
Yeah.
lot, and
Hmm.
so spreading the word more, but most people, a lot of people still don't understand it. So, but yeah, I'm becoming more outspoken about it and working on some
That's
projects
awesome.
to get all that going. So,
Yeah. So it sounds like there was a foundation to your faith. Like, did you grow up in the church, or
uh,
was your first experience with church like after football?
well, kind of off and on, we went to church, but it wasn't like a requirement. It was kind
Hmm.
of an option, like, oh, we might go to church, and then off and on, I would go with friends and stuff. It was always there. The Bible was always there. We just weren't a big church family growing up.
Yeah.
My older brother started going, so I would like go to be cool with him,
And
So
I'm sure
yeah,
there was free pizza as a kid.
yeah, there you go. So it wasn't always there. I mean, it was always around, but it wasn't. Unfortunately, it's not something that I really took on until that whole, that sermon that was literally apparently written for me and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, and I've had a lot of people throughout the years. I've had a lot of people tell me that God had talked to them about me, and I always thought that was just whatever.
Yeah.
Growing up, I
That's
was
just
like, I was like, oh, that can't be true and whatnot. But now I see it. There's so many. It's
yeah.
funny looking back how many dots you can connect that really kind of bring your faith together, and everything else you work on. So
That is a strange thing to hear. Like, if you're not in the church community and then someone from a church comes up to you and says, "Hey, this divine being told me to say
Yeah.
something to you. Like
Yes.
that's a little off-putting to someone who's not in like a
Yeah. And,
church
and,
setting.
and believe it or not, like from my early teens up until I really got into the faith, I had four people, believe it or not, four people. One of them actually, I did go through a divorce. One of them was my ex mother in law, and they all said, "Hey, like God told me, like if you just trust Him, He's got an incredible plan for you." He spoke
Mm.
directly to me, and like I said, a lot of times I was like, "Yeah, whatever, okay." But
Yeah.
now,
Like
and
what did he
now
tell you the
that,
winning lottery numbers were?
yeah, yeah, there you go, and now like I'm literally here. I I talk to the Holy Spirit every day, and I'm getting
Mm.
this, this info that some people call it. I've heard some pastors call it a download from God. Like He's sending the info, and you just got to receive it. Um,
Yeah.
so now, yeah, everything that I had heard beginning is really the things that they told me that He said are really starting to make sense nowadays with everything He's working on with me through. So.
Yeah. How is that? Like, is it difficult for you to receive that? Like, I guess, or would you still say you're like walking through that relationship with God, or
Well, see, I guess we have time. I'll go. So
yeah?
crazy. Another crazy thing happened. So earlier this year, a friend of mine wanted me to go to a leadership course because um, I had been doing all this stuff in fitness, and they were trying to convince me. They're like, "Oh, you would be such a good leader, or you'd be a good." In business or coaching people or stuff like that, and I never always believed in myself, and so I decided they actually got me tickets to this leadership conference, and I was like, okay, cool. I it was really hard for me to receive things. It always has been, and so they gave me these tickets and like, you go to this. Like this is going to help you. You'll learn leadership. It'll be good. It was in Texas, so it was about an 8 hour drive, and so I was headed there. It was late night because I had to work, and then I headed there. I think it was Friday night. My car broke down in Texas, about 7 hours from
Goodness.
home. And I was talking to God. I was like, "Okay, God, I believe you wanted me to come here. Um, Somebody gave me the tickets. I took your word. I took their word, and here we are. We're stuck on the middle of the highway, 7 hours from home. What should I do?" And of course, silence. And I was like, okay, so I'm waiting. I'm patient. I ended up calling my parents who had my kids, and I was just like, hey, I'm kind of stuck. My car broke down. This has never happened. I've never had car problems. Um, what do I do? So anyway, we got a hold of the local uh, tow service that was there. They towed me into the closest town, and I got a hotel for the night. I actually called the conference and said, "Hey, look, my car got towed. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. I'm about an hour and a half from there, and my car's broke down." So anyway, they actually paid for an Uber to get me there. So that was like,
The
whoa, okay,
conference did?
yeah. So I was like, okay, they're like, you know. So I got there, and the message was all about. It was an incredible program, and one of the things they kept talking about was how um, God loves us. Things are in a lot of ways rigged in our favor if we really think about it, if we really just trust in God. So after the conference, I had to figure out how I was going to get home. So I
Mm-hmm.
said a prayer, and I just said, God, I just need you to lead me, direct me, let me know. Is this car going to get fixed? Do I need to figure out how to get home? Anything. So good long prayer. So then I call the mechanic shop, who is actually the same people that towed me. And at first they were like, "Oh man, well your engine's not firing. It doesn't look good. We don't have time to look at it right now, so it might be a few days." And I said, "Oh gosh, okay." So
Goodness.
um, I thought, okay, well, what's the next best option? And I prayed about it again, and God's like, why don't you? Well, God and my mom, my mom were like, why don't you just rent a car, get home because your kid, we have your kids, and you've got to work, and Just get home and we'll figure out the car later. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I kind of just
That
told
sounds like
God,
a
like,
great mom, by the way.
yeah, exactly. I was kind of like,
Yeah,
she's like my best friend and too. So,
yeah.
um, so I went ahead and I just pretty much told God, like, I'm going to trust you through this process. This is a lot of an expense, and I don't know what to do, but I'm going to trust you. So I went ahead and called the local car rental, scheduled the car pickup, and a drive home. It was like Enterprise, I think, and they have one that's about 45 minutes from me, so I could just drive it from there to the closest one to me, and then get a ride home. And so I got all that booked, and then the tow shop, the mechanic shop, calls me, and it was the owner, and
Oh,
who I believe was a man of faith, because he called me and I didn't recognize the number and answered it, and he's like, "This is this Jason?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Hey, brother," just real nice, real cool guy, and I got some good news for you. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, you had my daughter and my niece had the exact same car that you had, and there was actually a big recall on those motors that they didn't go very public about. So he's like, I'm going to
oh,
send you all the paperwork, and what I'll have to do is just tow it to the closest dealer of your car, and it shouldn't cost you a penny. Like, this is part of a recall, and I've got all the legal documents because he almost had to take him to court. So
oh.
he towed my car and took the paperwork to the dealer and said, "Hey, this is what happened." So then I got a hold of them, and they're like, "Yeah, this is 100% covered under your warranty." So I got a whole new motor, whole new everything in my
No
car,
way.
because, and God, I'm pretty sure God was like, "See what happens when you trust me?" Like, I, and what happens when you receive, and all that good stuff. So there's been so many moments like that, just with, I mean, this year he's really done some good work with me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start. That was January 3rd and January 4th. My car broke down January 3rd. So it was like, the whole, like, it was
Goodness.
kind of like, oh, it's a new year. I'm going to tackle this leadership stuff. I'm going to coach people. I'm going to do all these things. And then, for a minute, car broke down. I was like, oh, here we go. But
Yeah.
man, he had a plan, and it still blows my mind when I think about it. I'm like, man, if it would have broke down somewhere else, and that guy wouldn't have known about it, and
Hmm.
I probably would have had to buy a whole new car, whole new motor, whatever. And but God broke me down right there. That guy picked me up. He knew what to do, and it was like, okay. So I got like, they ended up completely changing my motor, and then there was like six or seven other things that they changed out because of different recalls and stuff. So pretty well got a brand new car out of
Right.
that
Sounds like you
deal.
got like
So
insides of a new car.
yeah, so it's been an awesome journey, and
Mm.
the more I, not everything's perfect, obviously, but I think the more that we really trust him and walk in that faith, I think he's obviously, the more we're willing to receive, I think he's right there willing to bless us too. So
Yeah, and what was so impressive about hearing that story is the trust that you had even in that initial part of the struggle. Because I cannot say for myself that my first thought when my car breaks down, having never had car trouble before, is trusting in the Lord. Like I am definitely that person who's like, I am a Christian. I know that I'm saved. I know that God does
yes.
miracles, but at the same time, I understand cars, and it's just like that would not be
I
my
mean, I
first
was
instinct. So that is so impressive.
I was obviously a little shocked, but I literally had an out loud conversation with. I was like, God, I'm here, man. Like, you told me,
Mm.
this was kind of, it seemed like this was your plan, this was your idea. You told me to receive these, and here we are. And so yeah,
Yeah,
it was crazy.
that's awesome. So how did the leadership conference go?
Really good.
Good.
That's actually kind of what got me into coaching. Like I said, coaching other people in fitness, and um, personally, I think God kind of wanted me to go there to see, like, that and I don't say this like most people that know me know that I have no ego, whatever. But I think he wanted me to go there to see that I am a leader. Like I have the
Mm,
capability, because of just some different things growing up. And then, man, I didn't always believe in myself, to be honest. I had low
mm,
self-esteem, especially when I got overweight. And, I don't think he thought that that I had it in me unless I was pushed to that point, or if I learned more, or I had that opportunity to understand that hey, I am a leader, so
yeah.
I can do these things. So
So is there like a connection in what your belief was of leadership, like in that conference? Like, did you have a different perspective of leadership, and then they were able to show like a different style of leadership, if that makes
yeah,
sense?
yeah. So I found out basically that I am what they call a supportive leader.
Mm,
I what I my style of support is I bring out the best in others, encouragement, love, and to bring them up to their best selves, and then help them pursue whatever it is that they're doing. Initially, as a leader, I kept thinking like, oh man, I've got to have all my ducks in a row. I've got to know how to control people. I've got to know how to do this. I've got to know how to do this. I've got to know.
mm,
But then, like, once they really broke it down, and I started really learning, I'm like, man, you know, with my leadership style being this supportive, um, not that I don't have to know anything, but if I lead the right people and encourage the right people, that they do their thing, and then I can do my thing. I don't have to be in control
yeah,
of everything. I don't have to have all my ducks in a row. And I definitely didn't see that beforehand. Like I said, I'm pretty hard on myself in a lot of cases, and I kept thinking like, leader me, no, like I don't. I definitely don't always have everything in order and all my ducks in a row, like they say. So, but
yeah. Well, that's
one of
awesome.
the big takeaways is that you don't have to.
Yes. And I feel like I definitely have that same leadership style where, and I feel like we are on the same path as far as like not feeling worthy of that title of leadership because you're not someone who's like a type A alpha male who's
Right.
going to just like say, all right, everybody, line up. This is your job. This is your
Yes.
job. This is your job.
Yes.
But instead, like finding that core group of people and basically giving a vision to them and supporting the people who are capable of the thing instead of
Yeah.
being the one who just like tells everybody what they're going to do and micromanages their job exactly.
Yeah. See, that's not me. Yeah, that's definitely not me. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, and there was a Brennan is a guy who was also on the podcast, and he said it so well that gosh, what was it? I lost it. But anyway, dadgummit, it was perfectly applicable to this, and it's gone now. So
It'll come.
anyway, I
It'll
guess that's just a
come.
plug to watch that episode with Brennan. But
Okay, I sure will.
yeah, so in fitness, like you said, you were overweight at one point, and I know going through your Instagram, like that was like a major hurdle you got over, and I'm guessing that happened after the surgery, being stuck in a wheelchair for over a year.
Yeah.
So what was that process like of like have you ever had to lose that much weight before, or had you ever gotten to that point in your life?
No. I had always kind of had the mushroom, the mushroom top, as they call it. I always had the, or like a lot of people call it, and I'm not a big drinker, but a lot of people say if you have a belly, you got a beer belly, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I always had the flat tire. There's a million names for it.
Yeah.
Even playing football and running all the time, and I just never could seem to get rid of it. So I always had that, and it it was kind of funny because as soon as I got as soon as I got cleared, I did a few of the little fad diets just to try. I was like, okay, and then they didn't always work, and I was almost at that point like, oh well, maybe I'm just gonna have this. Like maybe I'm just gonna be overweight, and
Yeah.
kind
Did
of
you have a
started.
favorite fad diet?
No, no, I don't. Well, like a lot of people like keto and stuff because you do get results, but like as soon as you fall off or as soon as you eat carbs again, it's right back.
Yeah.
Um, So then so a coach actually reached out to me because I had always been doing workout. I had started doing workout videos and just posting like strength stuff because I thought, okay, I'm pretty strong and I can, I can just encourage people through strength because I definitely didn't have the look that I thought. And a coach reached out to me. He's also a man of faith, and he's like, "Oh, I got a solution for you." You know, he gave me the um, kind of gave me the meal plan and said like if you follow this and don't buckle, don't break it, you're going to get results. I promise you. And it was kind of another God moment. I was like, God, this is a little bit more than I would expend on myself. But if you think that it's going to benefit me mentally, because I was still going through that. What's the next chapter? Still overweight, de- depression off and on. So I thought I told God, like, if you think this is the best answer for me, or you think this is going to help me get some of these mental hurdles, I'm all in. And I believe I got
Mhm.
the go ahead. And then within, I think it was like 16 months, we lost 70 pounds, and it was all natural.
Golly.
And it was just, and then I got, then I really got the bug, and it was like, okay. And then I started competing, and then I started giving advice to anybody that wanted it. Started doing a lot of the Instagram content, and and then, like I said, everybody started saying like, "Oh, you should be a coach. You should try this out." So that's where we're at now.
That's great. So, what was it that got you, like you said, 70 pounds?
Yeah,
Like, what was it that like got you to that point where you wanted to do this? Like, where you made the commitment, like the guy sent you the booklet or the program, and you were
yeah,
like, "I'm going to stick to this."
yeah. I think it was. Well, I want to set this example for my sons. Ultimately, that
Mm,
is, aside from being a man of faith, the most important thing in the world is my sons. And I knew deep down that the shape I was in, not necessarily the shape I was in physically, but mentally, like I was overweight, I was insecure, very hard on myself. I felt unlovable, to be honest. Who's going to
mm.
want a guy pushing his late 30s, just got out of knee surgery, overweight, dealing with a lot of emotions. So it was kind of like, just being hard on myself, and I kept thinking, man, is this the guy that I want my sons to see? This guy that's reserved and hard on himself and feeling unlovable, unworthy. Is this the example I want to set? And it obviously wasn't. And now I just love it because like now they're kind of they're teenagers. They're getting older, so now I'm not as cool as I was a few years ago. But I used to hear them brag to their friends about the work I was doing in the gym and how much weight I'd lost and how I had a six pack, and that just lit my heart up. And I thought, man, that not in an egotistical way again, or
Yeah.
like thinking that that's the example I had to set, but just hearing how proud of me that my sons were, I was like, man, that's the example that I wanted to set right there. So it was needed.
100%.
Yeah,
Good gosh. Oh man, I so resonate with that because we've got a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old right now. And whenever we had our first daughter, like that changed my lifestyle in the gym so much. I have never wanted to lift heavy and be stronger in my life because, like, for that same thing, like, I want my daughter to look up to me and say,
yep,
"That's the man. Like, he's
yes,
the man. He can do
yes,
this.
yes. And then when you
If
actually,
anybody needs to pick up, yes."
yep, and then
Oh,
yeah, and then you actually start to hear him say that, and it's like, all right, that just pushes
yeah.
me. That pushed me even harder. So
Right. Because I feel like that's so much of like what gets people to do the thing is like not so much for ourselves, but for the benefit of other people. Not so much, like you said, recognition, but we need to do this or we need to make a change, not for ourselves, but because of who we need to be here for or who we need to serve or how we can serve.
absolutely, and that's like I'm still in awe sometimes because I have so many people that have reached out to me and like because of you, I've lost 15 pounds, or because of this reel,
Mm.
or because of this message that you posted, I haven't given up, or because of this. And I'm just like, wow, like, it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And, and I know that, I know God's all a part of that too. It's just, years ago, I would never have believed that I would have got to that point, or been in the shape I'm in now. I wouldn't have believed it. And now, just trusting God and all the plans and everything He's put out there, it's like, all right. So,
Doing the thing.
yeah, absolutely.
And I love that because I mean, anyone who looks at your socials, like they're definitely going to see like a relentless optimism and like positivity, and you could definitely tell that you're one of those people who supports others. Like you definitely, even just like looking at your socials, like I said, you are just giving that energy, like you're doing this not just for yourself, but like you said, to have someone else know that it's possible for them and that you're wanting the best for them. And this isn't just like, look at how awesome Jason is, but this could be you.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely. And
love
I
that.
think that's important. And I always, some people tease me about it, but I usually end every post with like, I'm rooting for you, because I really am. Like, I want I want everybody to succeed, if in whatever, like, obviously moral standards or goals that they have. I'm all for it. And if I've said that many times, like, if I can do this, anybody, anybody can
Yeah.
do it. So,
Hmm. I love it. And oh, it came to me a little bit, a portion of what Brennan had said was that some of the best leaders and some of the best people who are able to make the most progress on themselves are introspective people. And like the people who are insecure are usually the people who are able to affect the most change because they're introspective,
yeah,
if that makes sense. So like
yeah,
you're seeing in yourself all of those things that other people are probably also feeling in that same moment. And you're able to reach out and like touch that part of their emotions to say like, you're not the only one feeling it, like,
yeah,
and just able to give voice to those feelings that you have on the inside as well.
yeah. And I completely agree with that. And I guess one of the biggest takeaways I also got from that was, like, one of my mentors told me, like, man, if you lead with your heart, you'll change the world. Like, get out of your head and lead with your heart. And then
Mm-hmm.
just talking with other people, just encouraging other people. Like, I just became more aware of, like, if I saw somebody that maybe didn't look like they're having the best day, just acknowledging them, leading with the heart. Man, that changes people's lives, even for just a moment, but just how important that is. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely still working on that completely, but that was huge for me.
Yeah. All right. And so on this journey to lose over 70 pounds, what was one of those sticking points where you were just like, all right, I'm done. Like, no more. I'm tapping out. Because I know like everybody who has lost any amount of weight hits that point at some time. Or
Well,
did you have that?
like wanting to give up, or
Yes.
um, to be perfectly honest, I honestly didn't.
Oh,
I
nice.
I it was just like, after I started losing weight, it just, I was so excited, and I
Mm,
honestly just kept it going. I have had moments, just here and there, like after competitions, kind of. I'm a natural athlete, so it really it drives me crazy sometimes, because we get so cut
mm.
down for a show, and then it's like a month later, like, we're out of shape. And we're not, but
Yeah.
like, because you have to go through the bulking and cutting phases. So, like, a natural bulk is almost impossible to gain a lot of weight or muscle without putting on a little bit of fluff, as they call it. So, I you know
Hmm.
I've had my moments a couple times where I'm like, man, do I want to go through another fluff season, or do I want to just hang out here in the shredded zone? And but honestly, no, I've never had the tap out moment. For me, it's brought I tell people all the time, three things saved my life: Jesus Christ, my sons, and weights. So like, um, for me, man, it's like it's my peace, it's my home. When I'm at the gym, like I said, nothing else matters. So like, there was never a moment where I was like, I don't really like this, or I want to tap out, man. I love it. I really genuinely love it, and just the impact again, which I know, there's people that make way bigger impacts than I do, but just knowing that there's been people out there that have thought, because he did it, I can do it, man. That fired me up big time. Like every time somebody would message me and say that, or anytime I would get just anybody saying, because you haven't quit, I haven't, or anything like that, man, every time that was just like, all right, let's keep going. That I love that, man. Um, with that whole supportive thing, and leading with your heart. And my mentor kept telling me, he's like, you got one of the biggest hearts. Like you can change the world. And I'm really starting to believe that, man. Like if we just, encourage the people and walk in that faith, and uh, continue to stay fit, continue to push ourselves, we can really change the world. And so
Yeah.
like, there's just, and I tell everybody this. Like I heard a quote from, I think it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger not long ago. He's like, "I will always work out." Like it's just who I am, and I think that's who I'm becoming. Like I just don't see that I'll ever quit anytime soon. Just because of
Hmm.
helping as many people as I have, and help how many people I'll continue to help through it. So
Yeah, man. Well, I love that. I love that. I think that you hit the nail on the head where you can change the world through like that love and affirmation of people. And I think it rings true mostly for you because it's genuine. Like it's not like, you have people who they are willing to say the nice thing to you
yeah,
and like they basically like are manipulative. Like they know the emotion that they're trying to get out of you,
yeah,
and they'll say go through a rotation of like things that they'll say to try to hit that button for you so that you'll be happy or you'll like them. But
right,
you
yeah.
definitely seem like the person who is just genuine, like you just genuinely want people to do well. And so
I
whether it
really do.
helps you or not, like you just want that.
I really appreciate that. I really do. I think just going through some of the stuff I went through younger, and fighting depression, I, it used to be, I used to just do positive messages on Facebook and stuff, just because I didn't want anybody to, I didn't want anybody to feel like they were alone, and I didn't want anybody to really go through depression like I had. So I think that's, I don't know, that's that's kind of one of my strong points. Is I hate seeing other people struggle, um, especially mentally, or just struggle. Just bothers me. So I always try to,
Yeah.
when I can, I always try to be the light, and just encourage people.
Hmm. So is it mostly like the self-worth stuff that you find yourself struggling with, or is it body image, or where's the
Um,
struggle for you?
I think my biggest struggle was growing up with self worth. Well, just long story short, I think I was about five. My biological, and it's a kind of a full circle, really cool moment. My biological father had left me. Said he was in a different. He's a completely changed man. I have a wonderful relationship with now. I love him dearly. But then he had some drug issues, and he had met another woman, cheated on my mom, and they obviously got a divorce. And he eventually went to like drug rehab and all this other stuff, and so he took off. Um, mom was remarried and didn't always have the best relationship um, in the beginning with who she married. I have a wonderful relationship with him now, um, but it was kind of like uh, growing up. I think a lot of times I thought, okay, so like the two men um, that were supposed to be there, I just felt really
Right?
disconnected from. So I grew up kind of thinking like, well, who am I? Who's gonna love me? Who's gonna leave me? I always had that story, like when are they
Yeah.
gonna leave, or when are they gonna do this? And I got much better, obviously, getting older. But I think deep down, I think I always kind of had that self worth racket, or you know, thoughts in my head, like am I
Yeah.
worth it? So yeah.
I just
And then
find it telling
and then
yourself that story over and over of that self-worth issue.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think initially it was kind of a combination of both that and the self image because just after that, and I know it wasn't my fault because I couldn't do much, but man, I just hated being so overweight. And I felt like
Mm.
for a while I couldn't do anything about it. So the self image thing really got me too. Um, I think it was kind of the two combined because again, I kept thinking like, gosh, I'm mid 30s and I'm in a wheelchair and I'm gaining weight. Who's going to think I'm a catch,
Mm.
because I
Yeah.
was, I get caught up, you get caught up in your thoughts sometimes. So
Those are real things. Like for
yeah,
guys, like that's
yeah,
with in like the social media world now where like everybody looks like an alpha male, just like a jacked unit. Like it is
right.
hard
Yeah.
to look at yourself not having a six pack, not being 6'4",
Right.
not having like
Yeah.
all the things, like pulling up in a Rolls Royce everywhere you go. Like it's hard to live in a world of social media and also like maintain your self worth.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
So like, how do you combat that? Like, how do you, or how did you get out of that? Or I'm sure it's something you still struggle with at some level, but like, what was
Yeah.
the thing that kind of pulled you out to show you do have worth?
I've gotten a lot better with it over the years. I think one thing that comes to mind that was um, really mind blowing was like one of the coaches I had for one of my shows. Some of the workouts that he had me do were just insane, and he would tell me like, "Man, no matter what I give you, you complete them." And like I remember a buddy of mine wanted to try it, and he came with me, and it was like so. It was before a contest, so it was like really really high reps, supersets, just like 2 hour workouts every day, and
Mm,
he he couldn't do it. Like he left early. He's like, okay, man, I think I've had enough, and I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit or God or something, but I just it came to like I just thought, man, like and again, not in a bad way, but I was like, man, you're one of a kind. Like, do you realize how hard you're working that most people can't do? Like, you're doing this work that most people would quit on, or you're completing it and you're excelling at it. And then I ended up going on stage, and the first show I remember I didn't do so well. Obviously, my first show, and the coach was like, you just did what 1% of the population has done. Like there's 99% of the population doesn't have the guts to do what you just did,
yeah,
and look how far you've come through it. Like you've lost all this weight, you've done all this work, and you got to be proud. And so a few of those moments, it was just like, man, okay, like that's right. Like I'm not the average Joe. I used to tease like, somebody would say like, "Oh, you're inspirational or you're a good guy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just the average Joe." And I think that moment, like, I really realized like, I'm not the average Joe, and that's not. Some people would say, "Oh, that's kind of, you know, cocky or whatever," but I don't think so. I don't. I think confidence is a lot different than cockiness, but
yeah,
I think that was huge for me. And then, um, just I can't thank God enough for my sons. He blessed me to be their dad, and he sees me worthy of being their dad, and you have to understand that too. If he puts you in a position like that, you have to understand he sees your worth too. And regardless of being a dad or not, God loves us and sees our worth. And a
hmm,
lot of times the world will kind of like you said, like all the stuff we have to see, like if you just scroll for a minute, you see all these people that are just excelling in everything. And you keep thinking like, oh gosh, but a lot of those things aren't godly things, but I'm guilty of it
yeah.
too. So like just understanding that, God sees it, and um, I'm I even coined it like kind of like Dwayne Johnson says, like there's a lot of times I'm the hardest worker in the room, and I love that. I love that,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of my worth comes in that too. Is like regardless, like most people can't outwork me, and I'm happy with that because there was a point where I didn't have that mindset. So
And that is a great thing. Like it is just a lost art of just being able to grind and being able to just do the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just, ah, I love that mentality of being the hardest worker in the room. So good
Yeah.
job, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's next? You said you came out of that leadership conference, and fitness coaching is something you're thinking about, or
Yeah,
is that the
I'm gonna dive into that. I've got a few people now. Um, God is really pushing me to do. I think, and that's why I've always like. If I could just take a second to acknowledge you, uh, love your clothing brand. Love your message. I even brought out your shirt. I got your shirt on.
oh man,
I
too cool.
I love the message, and I think the world needs so much more of that strong, healthy, fit men. You know, spreading the gospel, spreading the word, and working hard. And so he's
Hmm.
really been talking to me about um, kind of being the voice of divine positive masculinity. Um, so there's a podcast in the works on that, and some other content, maybe even a couple different shirts and stuff. He's really kind of giving. I keep getting these ideas, and I've teased some of my people I look up to and like in the leadership program and stuff too. Like he keeps giving me these downloads. Like I keep getting all these things to talk about, or stuff to uh, gospel to spread. I'm getting ready to do a men's group here in the local town, and it blew my
Oh, awesome.
mind just talking with people like how many men want that. Just a little, just a group where men can be men. They can talk the gospel. They can talk about their flaws. They can talk about their successes, their dreams, and not be looked down on. They can be prayed for, and they can just have that circle, that strong circle of men to lift them up. And so I'm working on that, and it's really a lot. It's really a lot. Sometimes I
Yeah,
think about it or I write it down, and it's like, gosh, okay, that's I've already got a lot going on, but we're gonna keep piling on. So
yeah,
yeah,
dude. All it takes is just that first
yeah,
step, and then the next step, and before you know it, you're there.
yep,
But
that's
those downloads from God, like that's really how like, and I talked about this in the last podcast, but like that's how like the entire like brand got started. Like these are all just most of the shirts that initially came out, and why Disciplined Apparel started is because my wife and I were going through like infertility, and it was like tough stuff to deal with, and just being young and well, I say young, we were like 28. Yeah, I guess we were young. Yeah, I'm 34 now. I'm gonna claim that as young, 28.
yeah, yeah. Hey, you're still young
But
if you
yeah,
ask me.
but yeah, we were young and just like going through what we thought were tough things, and like most of the words, or most of the basic shirts and Disciplined Apparel were just the words that the Lord gave me to get through those hard days where going through miscarriages and fertility treatments and things like that, and it just gets so defeating because it was a season that lasted like 3 years. And we've got two beautiful girls now, and we want to have more kids, but in those tough times where you're just like going through it for years on end,
Yeah,
it's tough, man. And those downloads from God, like that's really, like you said, that's how all this started with Disciplined Apparel, and like wanting to share the hope at the end of the tunnel. And even though like we hadn't reached the end of the tunnel at that point. Like when
yeah,
all this started, it was like we were in the thick of it, and just like these were words that were getting us through. That were like, go to the next doctor's appointment, go to the next thing, like just keep hope.
yep.
And so, yeah, I would definitely encourage you, whatever the Lord's telling you to share, like just give it to the people. And you've got a great attitude. So I can't wait to see what He uses you to do, Jason. It's going to be
Oh,
awesome.
I appreciate that, man. You've
Hmm.
always been a. We've just chatted. Like this is the first time we've actually kind of met, but we've chatted a
Yeah.
bit, and man, I've always appreciated your messages and um, like I said, your message to the world is incredible. Like I'm
Hmm.
beyond excited for you, and I hope that continues to. I think you said you're kind of doing a relaunch. I hope that it just explodes for you. I'll
Yeah.
be praying for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that so much, Jason. And is there anything, where can people find you on the socials?
Instagram, my Instagram tag is Sumner02, which I think I might be changing that soon. I think it's just kind of a
Okay.
generic. Just I think that was a generic name that came up. But then Jason Sumner is on Facebook, or
Okay.
that's yeah, that's you can find me on Instagram with that too.
All right. And this is going to be launched in the future. So anyway, maybe a month or so from now. So if that changes, I'm going to re-touch base with you, and we'll put the handle down at the bottom for folks who want to find you. And I mean, you've got like 5,000 followers. So if people put in Jason Sumner, like I'm sure you'll at least be in like the top 10 that come up.
That'd be cool. That means a lot. Like I haven't been posting a whole lot lately because I've been so busy with everything.
Hmm.
Competition possibly later this year, everything that God's calling me to do, work, kids, yada yada yada. So I need to get it more active too. So we're gonna work on that.
Nice. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this, and we will talk again soon.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you so much.